The scalpel slipped from my trembling fingers, clattering against the stainless steel tray like a gunshot in the sterile silence of the exam room. James? Good. Don't walk away again, he whispered, his alpha voice cracking like thunder over the Charles River. Raw and desperate, the scent of his cedar and storm pheromones flooding the air, choking me with memories I'd buried under years of Boston blizzards and black coffee. I froze, heart slamming against my ribs, because there he was, Ethan Hale, the man who'd carved out my soul with a single betrayal, standing in my clinic doorway at 2 a.m., blood staining his crisp white shirt, eyes wild with the kind of fear that alphas like him were never supposed to show. It had been 3 years since he'd shattered me, since I'd found him tangled in sheets with his business associate in that Back Bay penthouse. His knots still buried deep while he laughed off my pleas like I was just another beta fool chasing alpha dreams. I'd packed my bags that night, fleeing to the fluorescent hum of Mass General's ER rotations, then scraping together enough to open this little clinic in South End, a haven for the uninsured, the forgotten, the ones like me who didn't fit the pack. Betas didn't get the fairy tales, we got the footnotes, the good enoughs. But Ethan? He was the storm I couldn't outrun, the alpha who'd promised forever and delivered a knife twist instead. But here he was, uninvited, unannounced, collapsing against the doorframe as crimson bloomed across his abdomen like an accusation. Gunshot, he rasped, sliding down the wall, his broad shoulders, once my shelter, hunching in agony. I should have called the cops. Or security. Or help. Just left him bleeding on the linoleum. But my feet moved on their own, instinct overriding the scar tissue around my heart. Lie down. You idiot, I snapped, voice steady even as my world tilted. As I ripped open his shirt, exposing the jagged wound, his hand caught, callous, the same one that had traced lazy circles on my back in stolen hotel rooms. I didn't know where else to go, he murmured, eyes locking on mine, that piercing blue gaze stripping me bare all over again. And in that moment, with the rain lashing the windows like judgment from the heavens, I realized the truth I'd been dodging. Some breaks don't heal, they just scar over, waiting for the next storm to rip them wide. I worked fast, the way you do when adrenaline sharpens everything to a razor's edge. Gloves snapped on, antiseptic stung the air, and I probed the wound with practiced efficiency, entry point clean, no exit, bullet lodged shallow but kissing the edge of his spleen. Ethan winced but didn't pull away, his breath hitching every time my fingers brushed his skin. The clinic's single or light buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows that made his face look gaunt, like the golden boy from our Harvard days had finally caught up to his own wreckage. Why here? I demanded, not looking up as I prepped the ultrasound wand, the gel cold against his heated flesh. You own half the goddamn city, private docs on speed dial, alphas who owe you favors. Why slum it with a beta in a walk-up clinic? His laugh was a wet, broken thing, more cough than mirth. Because you're the only one who ever saw me. Sims. Not the Hale Air. Not the Pack Alpha. Me. Bullshit. Honeyed bullshit that had hooked me at 24. Fresh out of med school. Interning at his family's foundation event where he'd cornered me by the punch bowl, whispering how a beta like me made him feel human. We'd burned hot that summer, stolen kisses in the public garden, nights tangled in his Beacon Hill brownstone, his alpha rut sinking with my heats in a way that blurred lines I'd been taught never to cross. Betas didn't not, we didn't claim. But Ethan had sworn it didn't matter. That I was his equal. His everything. Until it did. The bullet came out clean. A .38 slug that pinged into the tray like a bad penny. I sutured him up with silk threads. Each stitch a silent accusation, for the nights I'd cried myself raw. For the way I'd thrown myself into work to forget the phantom ache of his absence. He watched me the whole time. Silent now. His free hand twitching like he wanted to reach out but knew better. When I finally stepped back, peeling off my gloves, the room felt smaller, the air thick with unspoken wreckage. "You'll live," I said flatly, tossing the soiled gauze into the biohazard bin. "Stay off your feet for a week. No booze. No boardrooms. And Ethan? Don't come back. Ever." He sat up slowly, wincing as the monitors beeped a steady rhythm. Rain drummed harder against the panes, blurring the neon glow of Tremont Street below. "I can't promise that." His voice was low, laced with that alpha command that used to make my knees weak. Now it just pissed me off. There's a reason I ended up here tonight. Not just the bullet. Everything's unraveling. The company, Dad's gone. And I'm drowning in it all. And you. You're the only anchor I have left. Anchor. The word hit like a gut punch. I'd been his anchor once, steadying his wild alpha impulses, patching the emotional cuts from boardroom battles, loving him through the ruts that left us both wrecked and wanting more. But anchors get dragged down. You threw me overboard. Remember? For what? Some Omega intern who could give you the air your family demanded. Spare me the pity party. Ethan. Get out. He didn't move. Instead, he swung his legs off the table, bare feet hitting the cold floor. Unyielding, the white towel around his waist doing nothing to hide the V of muscle that led to memories I'd sealed away. It wasn't like that. Or it was. But not for the reasons you think. He stepped closer. Close enough that his scent wrapped around me again. Cedar and salt and that underlying musk that screamed mine even after all this time. My pulse betrayed me, spiking on the monitor I'd forgotten to unplug. I pushed you away to protect you. The threats? The rival packs, they were circling after Dad's will reading. An Omega from the inside? It was a setup, a way to force my hand. I thought, if I broke us clean, you'd be safe. But or half-truths. The kind alphas spun like silk to justify their storms. I shoved past him, yanking open a cabinet for pain meds, oxycodone, because even traitors deserved mercy. Safe? You gutted me. Ethan. I had to rebuild from nothing, new city, new life, pretending every day that I wasn't waiting for your shadow in every doorway. My voice cracked on the last word, and I hated it. Hated the way his eyes softened, like he could still read me like an open chart. He caught my wrist as I thrust the pill bottle at him, his thumb brushing my pulse point, a touch so gentle it burned. I'm sorry, he breathed. And for the first time, I saw it, the fracture lines in his alpha facade, the exhaustion etched deep. I never stopped coming here. You know. Not physically, but I drive by at night, watch the lights go out. Pathetic, right? The big bad Hale, stalking his ex like a lovesick pup. The admission hung there, raw and ridiculous, and something in me twisted, anger, longing. The stupid beta hope that never quite died. A siren wailed, cutting through the downpour. A reminder that Boston never slept, never forgave. Take the pills and go, I said, pulling free. But as he dressed, slow and deliberate, buttoning that bloodied shirt like armor, I felt the pull again, the gravity of us, unbreakable even in pieces. He paused at the door, hand on the knob, rain-slicked hair falling into his eyes. This isn't over. Sims. Not for me. And then he was gone, vanishing into the storm like a ghost, leaving me with the echo of his scent and a suture kit that felt heavier than my heart. The next morning dawned gray and unforgiving, the kind of November chill that seeped into your bones and stayed there. I dragged myself through rounds, flu shots for the baristas from the corner cafe, blood pressure checks for Mrs. Kowalski upstairs who swore her cat was her only family. The clinic was my sanctuary, a converted brownstone squeezed between a falafel joint and a vintage bookstore. Walls lined with faded posters of the Freedom Trail and mismatched chairs scavenged from tag sales. Patients trickled in, a trans kid with a sprained ankle from pickup basketball, an elderly Cuban gent wheezing from the cold. I smiled. I listened. I prescribed beta efficiency at its finest. No alpha flare. Just quiet competence. But Ethan's ghost lingered. The faint cedar whiff on my coat. The phantom warmth of his hand. By noon, I'd numbed it with turkey clubs from the deli and a double espresso. But when the door chime jingled at 2 p.m., my stomach dropped. Not him. Please. Not him. It was Lila, my nurse practitioner, all sharp bob and sharper wit, dropping a stack of charts on the desk. You look like hell. The rough night? Or did that hot ex-alpha of yours finally show up to beg? I shot her a glare, but there was no heat in it. Lila knew the score, had pieced me back together over late-night shifts and bad rom-com marathons when I'd first arrived in Boston, shell-shocked and single. Exes are like hernias, best left buried. She snorted, flipping through labs, but her eyes lingered, concerned. Betas stuck together, we didn't pry, but we saw. The afternoon blurred. A diabetic foot ulcer that had me cursing Big Pharma under my breath. A virtual consult for a migrant worker too scared to show his face. By closing, the sky had cleared to that crisp blue that made the common look like a postcard. Leaves crunching underfoot as I locked up. I should have gone home to my South End walk-up, cracked a beer, scrolled through Grindr for someone safe and forgettable. Instead, I wondered, boots scuffing the brick sidewalks, past the gas lamps flickering to life, the hum of rush hour traffic on Starro Drive. My phone buzzed in my pocket, unknown number, but I knew. Outside your place. Need to talk. Hard in my throat. I quicken my pace. The familiar ache blooming like an old bruise. He was there, leaning against the wrought iron gate of my building, fresh shirt untucked, a bouquet of wilted daisies clutched in one fist like a peace offering from a man who owned vineyards. Stalking now. Is it? Stopping short, arms crossed against the wind. Desperate. He straightened, wincing at the pull on his stitches, and held out the flowers. Daisies, my favorite, the ones I'd planted in pots on his penthouse balcony, whispering dreams of a life beyond packs and pedigrees. I couldn't stay away. After last night, I keep replaying it. Saving me. Like you always did. I snatched the bouquet, petals scattering like confetti from a failed party. Don't romanticize it. I took an oath. Ethan. Harm none. Even assholes. But I unlocked the gate, letting him follow me up the narrow stairs, the creak of wood under his weight echoing our history. My apartment was a beta's haven, bookshelves sagging with medical tomes and dog-eared Kerouac. A sagging couch from IKEA. Windows overlooking the alley where cats yowled at midnight. No alpha grandeur, just me. Making do. He sank onto the couch like he belonged, legs sprawled, and I hated how right it looked. Tell me the truth, I said, dropping the daisies on the coffee table, stems trailing water like tears. The omega, was it real? Or just another Hale power play? Ethan rubbed his jaw, stubble rasping, eyes distant. Real enough to fool everyone. Including me. At first. Her name was Riley Omega from the rival pack. Planted to seduce and sabotage. Wedding was staged for the headlines. To merge our lines and crush the competition. But I couldn't go through with it. Not after you. I called it off 2 months in. Exposed the whole thing. That's why the bullet last night, loose ends tying knots around my neck. The words landed heavy. Rewriting the narrative I'd scripted in therapy sessions and bar stools. Betrayal? Yes, but laced with sacrifice? My knees buckled. And I sat across from him. The chasm between us filled with the hum of the radiator. You could have told me. Fought for us. And drag you into the crossfire? His voice rose. Alpha edge sharpening. Betas like you, smart? Steady, they don't survive pack wars. I watched my father bury 3 mates before mom. I couldn't. I won't risk you. Emotion clawed up my throat. Hot and unbidden. You already did. By deciding for me. I stood, pacing to the window. City lights smearing like watercolor. Below. A couple argued on the sidewalk. Shadows entwining in fury and forgiveness. I loved you, Ethan. Not the alpha. Not the empire. Just you, the guy who burned toast and quoted Whitman at dawn. And you broke that. He rose too. Slow. Closing the distance until his chest brushed my back. Heat radiating like a furnace. I love you still. Every broken piece. His arms circled me. Tentative. And I stiffened, then melted. Traitor that I was. Leaning into the solid wall of him. His lips grazed my neck. Not demanding. Just there. A question in the salt of his breath. Let me fix this. Please. The kiss started soft. A brush of lips that ignited like dry tinder, his mouth on mine. Tasting of regret and rain. Hands framing my face with a tenderness alphas reserved for omegas. But I wasn't. And he knew it. Pouring everything into the press. The slide. Until I was gasping. Fingers twisting in his shirt. We stumbled to the bedroom. Shedding clothes like sins, his shirt hitting the floor with a whisper. My coat tangled at my ankles. Naked? He was a map of scars I'd never mapped. A fresh pink line from the bullet. Older ones from boardroom brawls and boyhood trees. I traced them with my mouth. Reclaiming territory. His moans low and wrecked as he arched under me. No, not tonight, just us. Skin on skin. His alpha strength leashed to my rhythm. Hips grinding in a dance we'd perfected years ago. He whispered my name like a prayer. James? Good. James, burying his face in my neck as release crashed over us. Wave after shuddering wave. We lay tangled. His heartbeat syncing with mine. The city a distant lullaby. But dawn brought clarity, cold as the harbor fog. As he dressed, stealing glances like a thief, I felt the fracture lines reappear. This changes nothing, I said, voice hoarse. You can't just waltz back in. He nodded. Jotted. I know. But I'm not leaving Boston. Not without fighting. And with a final kiss, fierce, promising, he was gone again, leaving me with sheets that smelled of him and a heart that dared to hope. Weeks blurred into a fragile routine, the kind Boston winters enforced, layers upon layers, guarding against the freeze. The clinic thrummed, holiday flu spikes. Walk-ins from the T station huddled against the sleet. Lila noticed the shift in me, the way I'd hum off-key while charting, or stare out at the snow-dusted rooftops. He's back, isn't he? She said one afternoon, handing me a mug of chamomile that steamed like secrets. I shrugged, but she saw through it, squeezing my shoulder with that beta solidarity. Just don't let him alpha you into forgetting who you are. Ethan kept his distance, at first. Then the text started, saw your post on that free clinic drive, proud of you. Or drove by the common today. Remember our first kiss? Harmless hooks. Reeling me in slow. We'd meet in neutral territory, a dive bar in the North End for cannoli and confessions, or walks along the esplanade where the wind whipped our words away. He opened up in fragments, his father's deathbed empire games, the pack elders pressuring for an heir, the loneliness of the penthouse now echoing empty. I built walls after you left, he admitted one night, hands buried in his coat pockets as we watched joggers brave the path. But they don't keep the cold out. Nothing does. I shared too. Haltingly, the panic attacks that had me white-knuckling steering wheels on I-93. The grinder ghosts that never stuck. The quiet pride in my patient's small victories. Being beta means flying under the radar, I said, kicking a pebble into the snow. No drama, no destiny. Choices. He stopped, turning me to face him, thumb brushing a snowflake from my lash. Your choices are braver than any alpha decree. The romance rebuilt brick by brick, coffee runs where he'd surprise me with my order, black. 2 sugars. No foam. Late night calls when insomnia hit. His voice a gravelly anchor through the line. Sex evolved too, from frantic reunions to slow explorations. His mouth mapping me like sacred text. Learning the beta cadence of my pleasure without the alpha rush. You're perfect, he'd murmur. Fingers interlaced. Our breaths mingling in the dark. For the first time, I believed it. But conflict brewed, insidious as the nor'easter warnings on the radio. Whispers reached me through Lila's network, Hale Industries teetering. Rival packs sniffing blood. Ethan's name in tabloid crosshairs for the botched merger scandal. Then the call came. 3. His voice shattered. James, they've got me cornered. Warehouse in Seaport. Come alone. Panic surged. Hot and primal. I grabbed my kit. Keys jangling like alarm bells. Tires screeching on black ice as I raced through the empty streets. Charles River a black mirror under sodium lights. The warehouse loomed. A rusting relic from Boston's shipyard days. Floodlights cutting the fog like accusations. Ethan waited inside, flanked by 2 burly betas, enforcers from the rival McAllister pack. their scents sour with aggression. He looked wrecked, lips split, eyes swelling purple, hands zip-tied behind him. "You came," he breathed as I burst through the side door, relief warring with fury in his eyes. The leader, a squat alpha named Vance with a shark's grin, stepped forward, pistol loose in his grip. Doc Hale's little secret. How touching. Drop the bag, Beta, or your boy's spleen gets a sequel. My mind raced, trauma protocols flashing. Stabilize. De-escalate. But this wasn't a chart, it was a powder keg. "He's no good to you dead," I said. Voice level. Inching closer. "Let me check him." Then we talked terms. Vance laughed. A bark that echoed off concrete. "Terms? Hale here owes us blood for screwing our Omega play. But your leverage. Betas fetch a pretty penny in the right circles. The implication slithered in auctions. Underground rings where unmated betas were traded like chattel. Ethan's roar cut the air. Pure alpha rage. Straining against his bonds. "Touch him and I'll end you all." Chaos erupted then. Vance lunged for me. Ethan surged free in a blur of borrowed strength, tackling the bastard to the ground. This flew. Grunts and curses filling the space. The second enforcer drawing a knife that glinted wicked. I dove for my bag, abandoned in the scuffle, fingers closing on the syringe of ketamine I'd packed for emergencies. Prick. Thump. And the knife man was down, twitching. Ethan and Vance grappled. Alphas locked in primal fury, teeth bared, pheromones clashing like storm fronts. Blood sprayed as Ethan landed a blow. But Vance rolled, pinning him, gun pressing to his temple. Time slowed, my heart a drum, the world narrowing to that barrel. "No!" The shout tore from me. And I charged, tackling Vance off Ethan with beta desperation, all 160 pounds slamming into solid muscle. We hit the floor hard, concrete biting my elbows, but the gun skittered away. Ethan finished it, knee to throat, a crack like thunder, Vance going limp. Silence fell, broken only by our gasps, the drip of blood pooling dark. "James," Ethan's voice broke as he crawled to me, hands frantic, checking for wounds. "Are you hurt? Tell me you're—" "I'm fine, elite." Because the gash on my arm from the scuffle burned like fire, but his face, streaked with sweat and grime, mattered more. We staggered out, sirens wailing distant, the dawn painting the harbor pink as if nothing had shattered. Back at the clinic, my fortress, I patched us both, stitches mirroring the ones I'd given him weeks ago. "This is what you meant by unraveling," I said, tying off the knot. Pack wars. Real bullets. Not metaphors. He cupped my face, thumbs smearing antiseptic like war paint. "I tried to shield you. But you saved me." Again. The kiss was salt and iron, desperate, sealing promises in the afterglow of violence. But as cops swarmed later, statements blurring into exhaustion, I saw the toll, Ethan's empire crumbling, my sanctuary tainted by blood. The betrayal came swift, a dagger in the ribs 2 days later. Lila burst into the exam room mid-rounds, phone thrust at me like evidence. "Read this." Now, it was a leaked email chain, Hale Industries board. Time-stamped last night, secure the beta asset. Leverage against McAllister fallout. James Riley, vulnerable. Compliant. Bring him in quietly. My knees buckled. Vision tunneling. Asset. Compliant. Words like clinical notes. Reducing our nights to strategy. Ethan had played me, and the warehouse? A setup to draw me out? Make me the pawn in his chess game. Rage boiled. Hot and beta bright. As I stormed his penthouse. Key still burning a hole in my pocket from our reconciliation. He answered shirtless. Confusion melting to horror as I shoved the printout at him. Explain. My voice was ice. But inside, the storm raged. James? Wait, it's not. He snatched the pages. Eyes scanning. Face draining to ash. This is forged. The board's rogue faction, they want me out. And you're my weakness. But doubt festered, worming through the cracks. Swear it, I demanded. Stepping back. The elevator ding a countdown. On everything, he vowed. Hands out. I burned the merger files last week. Check my safe, codes are yours. But the words rang hollow. Echoes of old lies. I fled then. Down the marble halls. Into the biting wind. Tears freezing on my cheeks. Days blurred to numbness. Clinic on autopilot. Lila's hugs my lifeline. Sleep fractured by nightmares of warehouses and whispers. Ethan called. Texted. Showed at the door with proof, digital forensics reports. Affidavits, but trust was a muscle atrophied. Torn beyond suture. The climax hit on a sleet-lashed Christmas Eve. Clinic empty save for the tree twinkling in the window. Ornaments from patients' kids glinting like fragile hopes. The door flew open. Bell jangling wild. And there he was, coated in ice. Eyes feral. They're coming for you, he panted. Barricading the door with a filing cabinet. Board hitman, McAllister ties. I traced the leak. We have to go. No. The word was a wall. But fear cracked it. Gunshots shattered the glass. Pop-pop, shards raining like judgment. Ethan shoved me behind the desk. Drawing a pistol from his coat. Stance Alpharetti. Stay down. The intruders breached. Two shadows. Silenced shots pinging off metal. Ethan fired back. Precise. One down in a spray of red. The second lunged. Tackling him. And I saw it, the knife flashing toward his throat. Time fractured, I grabbed the crash cart defibrillator. Slamming the paddles down not on flesh but as a bludgeon. Electricity sparking wild as it connected. The attacker convulsed. Crumpling. Ethan rose. Bloodied but unbroken. Pulling me into a crush of limbs. You fought for me, said. Sirens wailed. Blue lights painting the snow. Cops swarmed. Arrests followed, board members indicted. The leak exposed as corporate sabotage. In the aftermath, hospital waiting room stark under fluorescence. Ethan stitched up beside me. Our hands linked across the divide. I never betrayed you, he whispered. Voice raw. You're not an asset. You're my home. The truth settled. Humanistic and hard won. Love wasn't pack or pedigree. It was choosing the mess. The scars. The beta heart that beat steady against alpha storms. We didn't rush, therapy first. Boundaries drawn like sutures. Months later. Spring thawed Boston. Cherry blossoms dusting the common as we walked. Hands clasped. No secrets left. It wasn't fairy tale perfect, alphas and betas didn't get that. But in the quiet of my clinic, his visits no longer secret but shared, we built something real, forgiveness forged in fire, romance rooted in rain. And in Ethan's eyes, I saw it reflected, the man who'd broken me, remade whole. The spring of that year unfurled like a hesitant promise. Boston shaking off its winter skin with the stubborn grace of a city that knew reinvention. Dogwoods bloomed along Newbury Street, their petals a soft pink rebellion against the gray, and the air carried the tang of street vendors hawking lobster rolls from carts parked crooked on the curbs. I threw myself into the rhythm of renewal, expanding the clinic's hours to catch the afterwork crowd. Partnering with a local LGBTQ+ center for free prep clinics that drew lines down the block. Lila joked I was overcompensating, but she helped anyway, her tattooed arms juggling syringes and smiles with equal ease. Ethan was a constant now. Not the whirlwind of before but a steady current, mornings with coffee delivered to the clinic door. Steam curling from paper cups like unspoken apologies. Evenings where he'd cook in my cramped kitchen, burning the edges of risotto while quoting lines from Good Will Hunting to make me laugh. How do you like them apples? He'd grin, forking a bite to my lips, his blue eyes crinkling at the corners in that boyish way that still undid me. We'd make love slow then, bodies aligning like puzzle pieces worn smooth by time. His alpha heat tempered to match my beta calm. No rushing the knot. Just the deep, anchoring slide of us together. But scars don't fade with cherry blossoms. Nightmares crept in on humid nights. Warehouse echoes pulling me awake in sweats. Ethan's arm tightening around me like a lifeline. I'm here, he'd murmur into my hair, voice rough with sleep. And I'd trace the bullet scar on his side. A twin to the one I'd given him that first storm-swept reunion. We talked then? In the witching hours when the city hummed low, about the board trial looming like a thunderhead. The therapy sessions where he unpacked the alpha guilt of his father's shadow. The way I'd learned to armor my heart with stethoscopes and sarcasm. One afternoon, as rain pattered the clinic windows like impatient fingers, a new patient shuffled in, Riley, the Omega from Ethan's past. Her belly swollen under a loose sweater, eyes downcast and rimmed red. Lila buzzed me from the front, voice low, it's her. The one. My stomach nodded, old jealousy flaring like heartburn. But I squared my shoulders, doctor first. Exes go second. Send her back. She perched on the exam table, hands fidgeting with the hem of her shirt, the faint jasmine of her Omega scent muted by nerves. I didn't know where else, she started, voice small. Ethan referred me. Said you're the best. No questions. Referred. The word stung. A reminder of the life we'd almost had. The one where she'd been the villain in my script. But ultrasounds didn't lie. And neither did the flutter of a heartbeat on the screen, strong, consistent. A tiny alpha or beta claiming space. You're safe here, I said, wheeling the machine closer, gel cool on her skin. As the wand glided, images bloomed, limbs kicking, profile already stubborn. 18 weeks. Healthy, exhaled, tears spilling free. And the story tumbled out, the forced engagement, the McAllister coercion, her flight to Boston after the scandal broke. He saved me. You know. Ethan. Paid for everything. No strings. Said I reminded him of what real strength looks like. The praise twisted in me, pride warring with the ache of what is. He's good at that, I replied, handing her tissues. The humanistic pull stronger than spite. Staying for the follow-up? She nodded, wiping her cheeks. If it's okay. I don't have anyone else. And just like that, the betrayal's echo softened. Riley not a thief, but a survivor, woven into our frayed tapestry. When I told Ethan that night, over takeout pad thai from the spot on Mass Avenue, his face lit with that rare, unguarded joy. You're incredible, he said, pulling me across his lap, kissing me deep and grateful. Seeing you with her. It's like watching Grace in motion. The word lingered as summer scorched in. Humidity turning the Charles to steam. Fenway crowds roaring under the lights. We stole weekends, a road trip up the coast to Gloucester, where we'd park the Jeep on rocky bluffs and fuck in the back seat. Windows fogged. Ocean crashing below like applause. Or quiet nights at the IC. His hand warm in mine as we wandered exhibits, whispering about Basquiat's chaos mirroring our own. Romance deepened, laced with the dramatic undercurrent of his trial prep, lawyers in pinstripes grilling him over depositions, the press sniffing for scandal. Conflict simmered when the tabloid struck, Hale Ayres Beta Muse, from clinic to coup, grainy photos of us at the Esplanade, my arm around his waist. Headlines twisting our quiet into conspiracy. Pack elders called. Voices oily with disdain. An alpha with a beta? Its weakness? Find an omega. Secure the line. Then shut them down. But the poison seeped. Dinners where he'd stare into his whiskey. Murmuring. They don't get it. You make me better. I felt it too. The pull of doubt. Was I holding him back? A beta anchor dragging an alpha ship? Lila called bullshit over beers at the Bound. Her pints slamming the table. You're not his sidekick? Sims. You're the goddamn hero. Own it. Her words fueled me. But the emotional toll mounted, sleepless nights charting escape routes in my head. Wondering if love meant letting go. The high tide of it crashed in August. Heat wave baking the asphalt to tar. Ethan vanished midday. Phone dark. A note on the kitchen counter, trial recess. Handling loose ends. Love you. Loose ends. The phrase echoed the warehouse. And panic clawed, visions of ambushes. Blood on concrete. I paced the apartment, calling Lila for backup. Her voice steady, go to the penthouse. I'll meet you. The elevator ride up was eternity, doors chiming like a guillotine. He was there, pacing the living room. Phone to ear. Voice a whip. No. You tell the board if they touch him. I burn it all down. He hung up as I entered, relief flooding his face. But I was already unraveling. What the hell? Ethan? Loose ends? After everything? He crossed to me. Hands raised. Protectors from the elders, threatening to out you. Smear the clinic. I met them neutral. Shut it down. Proof tumbled out. Recordings. His knuckles bruised from restrained fury. But the fear lingered. A chasm. I can't keep doing this, I whispered, sinking to the couch, head in hands, waiting for the next shoe to drop. It's not living. He knelt before me, alpha pride stripped bare, eyes pleading. Then let's change the game. Marry me, Sims. Not for packs or papers, for us. I'll step down from Hale. Hand it to trustees. We build something new. Your clinic scaled. A life without shadows. The proposal hung. Dramatic and raw. Ring box appearing from his pocket. A simple band. Platinum etched with our initials intertwined. Tears blurred it. Emotion cresting like a wave. Yes, I breathed. Pulling him up. Sealing it with a kiss that tasted of salt and surrender. But even as we celebrated, champagne on the balcony, city sprawl glittering below, the humanistic undercurrent whispered, love was work. Not magic, choices stacked like bricks against the storm. Fall gilded the leaves to gold. Trial wrapping in a blaze of verdicts, Ethan cleared. Board purged. McAllister's scattered. Riley delivered a boy. Beta like his mother. And we visited the hospital. Ethan cradling the tiny fist with wonder. Whispering, Uncle Ethan approves. Laughter bubbled. The betrayal's ghost finally exorcised. Yet the deepest conflict brewed internal. A romantic reckoning as Thanksgiving frost nipped the air. Ethan proposed expansion, merging his foundation with my clinic, a network for underserved queer youth across New England. We'd be unstoppable, he said over pumpkin pie at my mom's in Dorchester, her beta warmth enveloping us like a quilt. But doubt gnawed. Was it partnership? Or his alpha drive eclipsing mine? The argument erupted post-feast, driving back through the Pike snarl. It's not charity, James, it's legacy. Our legacy. His voice rose. Frustration alpha sharp. And what if I don't want your empire? I shot back. Tires hissing on wet pavement. I'm a doctor, not a mogul. This feels like absorption. He pulled over at a rest stop. Engine ticking cool. Silence heavy. I thought we were building together. Am I? Too much. Vulnerability cracked his voice. The alpha mask slipping, revealing the man who'd lost everything once and feared it again. We sat there, rain sheeting the windshield, hands finding each other across the console. Not too much, I said softly. Just learning the balance. Forgiveness flowed, emotional and earnest, leading to a roadside reconciliation, backseat tangled, urgent and affirming, reclaiming us in the downpour. Winter circled back, but softer now. Holidays strung with lights that mirrored our mending. Christmas Eve, snow blanketing the common. We exchanged vows in a quiet ceremony at City Hall, Lila officiating. Riley as witness. Rings exchanged under mistletoe boughs. No pack fanfare. Just as humanistic in its simplicity, two men choosing each other. Beta heart to alpha fire. The climax lingered in aftershocks, a final elder confrontation. Ethan facing them in the boardroom. Me at his side. This is my pack, he declared. Hand in mine. Take it or leave. The tail sick. And we emerged into the crisp air. Free. But the true peak came in quiet revelation. Ethan's rut hitting hard in January. The penthouse a haze of need. I nodded him that night, not biologically, but with toys and trust. Reversing the script. His submission a gift wrapped in moans. You're my alpha, he gasped. Wrecked and whole. And in that vulnerability, our love transcended labels. Spring returned. Full circle. And with it, this clinic thriving, a marriage budding, betrayals transmuted to strength. In Boston's embrace, we walked forward, hands linked. The alpha who'd broken me, now the one who mended us both. By the time summer hummed back to life, Our life together had settled into a rhythm as familiar as the T's rattle under the city streets. The merged foundation, now called Riley Hale Health Collective, had sprouted satellite clinics in Lowell and Providence, each a beacon for the marginalized, queer kids dodging conversion camps, immigrants navigating the system's maze, betas like me proving we didn't need alpha gloss to shine. Ethan dove in with that relentless energy, schmoozing donors at galas in the seaport while I grounded it in the trenches, training nurse practitioners on cultural competency, my white coat a badge of quiet revolution. Romance wove through the days like ivy on brownstone walls, spontaneous picnics in the Arnold Arboretum, where he'd pack artisanal cheeses and that go-doffel Merlot he swore was elevated, only for us to end up tipsy and tangled under the oaks, his laughter rumbling against my chest. Nights were sacred, my head on his thigh as he read case files aloud, his fingers carding through my hair, or slow dances in the kitchen to Coltrane vinyls, bodies swaying to saxophone sighs. Sex was our language, evolving, sometimes fierce. His alpha dominance pinning me to silk sheets, others tender. Me topping with a strap that made him arch and beg, blurring lines until we were just two souls friction forged. But drama never strayed far in a city built on revolutions. The elders' grudge festered, manifesting in anonymous threats, slashed tires outside the clinic, dead flowers on our doorstep with notes scrawled unnatural union ends in ruin. Ethan bulked up security, discreet shadows tailing our walks, but it grated. A reminder that our love was still a target in pack politics. "They're dinosaurs," he'd growl over breakfast. "Forks stabbing eggs like enemies." Fading out. I nodded. But anxiety gnawed, nights where I'd jolt awake, pulse racing, convinced shadows hid knives. Lila noticed, cornering me during a staff lunch at the Green Dragon, her eyes sharp over fish and chips. "You're carrying his war. Tims. Set boundaries, or it'll eat you." Beta wisdom, blunt as Boston bluntness. I took it to heart, insisting on therapy doubles, us together, unpacking the power imbalances, him learning to lean, me claiming space without apology. The emotional core deepened in autumn's amber glow, leaves carpeting the freedom trail like confetti from forgotten parades. Riley's little one, Mateo, turned 6 months, a chubby beta with her eyes and a gummy grin that melted defenses. We became family in the fractured way survivors do, Sunday brunches at her Cambridge apartment, Ethan bouncing the kid on his knee while I quizzed her on postpartum blues. "You two are disgustingly domestic," she teased one day, nursing Mateo as rain tapped the panes. "Makes the rest of us believe in second chances." Second chances. The phrase echoed as Ethan's birthday loomed. October crisp with cider mill scents wafting from farm stands on the Cape. I planned a surprise, rented a cabin in the Berkshires, stocked with his favorite scotch and a playlist of our songs, from Springsteen anthems to hushed Bon Iver ballads. But en route, conflict ignited, a call from the foundation's accountant, voice tight. "Irregularities, Mr. Hale." Siphoned funds, looks internal. Ethan's face darkened, knuckles white on the wheel as we merged onto the Mass Pike. "Elders," he muttered. "A curse. Trying to bankrupt us before the next board vote." Fury simmered, alpha protectiveness flaring. "I'll handle it. You focus on the birthday bullshit." The dismissal stung, sharp as salt in a cut. "Bullshit? This is us." Ethan, escaping the crap. "But if you check out, what's left? Silence stretched, miles ticking by, until he pulled over at a scenic overlook, foliage ablaze in reds and golds. "I'm scared," he admitted, voice cracking, forehead to the steering wheel. "Of losing it all. The work, everything I've clawed back." Vulnerability poured, raw and romantic, his hand finding mine across the gearshift. "You're my North Star, Tims. But stars burn out if you stare too long." We forgave in the front seat, lips meeting soft, then urgent. The overlook empty save for us, clothes shed in a frenzy, his body covering mine on the leather, gasps fogging the glass. It was reclamation, emotional catharsis, hips rolling in sync with the rustle of leaves outside. Wrapped in his coat, we drove on, the threat diffused by shared breath. The cabin weekend sealed it, fires crackling in the stone hearth, bodies lazy in flannel sheets, stories swapped like kindling, his Harvard pranks, my med school disasters, dreams whispered for a future unscarred. "Kids," he mused one dawn, coffee steaming as mist rolled off the hills. Maybe. The beta brood, raising hell. The image warmed me, humanistic hope blooming. But reality intruded on the drive home, voicemail from Lila, clinic vandalized. Elder tags everywhere. Rage boiled as we sped back. Sirens in the distance, a grim welcome. The damage was surgical, window smashed. Exam rooms spray-painted with slurs, beta whore, alpha traitor, files scattered like confetti from hell. Cops dusted for prints, but we knew, message received. Ethan paced the sidewalk, phone barking orders to PIs, while I salvaged what I could, heart splintering. "This stops now," I said, voice steel. "No more hiding. We go public, full court press. Expose the bastards." He paused, eyes meeting mine, pride flickering. My beta, leading the charge. The press conference was set for dawn. But betrayal's shadow loomed larger, a tip from an insider, the siphoning traced not to elders, but Riley's estranged brother. A McAllister holdout worming back for revenge. Confrontation came midnight. At her apartment, Ethan and I bursting in. Mateo asleep in his crib. Riley pale but fierce. "I didn't know," she swore, handing over ledgers, tears carving tracks. He used my access code. Said it was for the baby. The truth unraveled, coercion anew. Her brother leveraging family ties, threatening custody. Ethan's alpha instinct surged, arms around her, voice command calm, "You're packed now. We end this." But I saw the fracture, trust, fragile as frost, cracking under weight. "How do we know?" I asked later, driving home through sodium-lit streets. Mateo safe in a guest room we'd cleared. "We don't," he said, hand on my thigh. "But we choose to." The decision was ours, turning evidence to feds, shielding Riley, rebuilding walls higher. Romance tempered the storm. That night, with the city sleeping, we held each other. Slow thrusts of vow against the dark. His knot swelling gentle, binding us in waves of release. November's chill brought resolution. Arrests splashed across the globe. McAllister remnants crumbling. The clinic reopened stronger. Community rallying with paint cans and pizza. Queer activists chanting solidarity in the streets. Ethan's birthday, belated, was intimate, just us on the harbor cruise. Skyline twinkling as he renewed his proposal under stars. Ring glinting. Forever. Beta mine. Emotional depths plumbed. We surfaced renewed, therapy evolving to couples visioning, plotting expansions with beta-led boards, ensuring no one overshadowed. Drama faded to backstory. Romance the foreground, stolen kisses in boardrooms. Lazy Sundays with the Globe crossword. Ethan's head in my lap. Yet the arc crested in December's hush. A humanitarian pivot. A blizzard stranded us at the clinic. Power flickering as patients huddled. A family of trans refugees. An elderly gay couple from the village days. We triaged by candlelight. Ethan boiling snow for water. Me stitching cuts with thread from the sewing kit. In the glow. Stories flowed. Losses? The American dream's jagged edge. As plows cleared dawn, Ethan pulled me aside. Breath clouding. It is why. Not empires. People. The kiss was profound. Laced with tears. Our bond humanistic gold. Spring beckoned again. But we'd claimed our seasons, alpha and beta. Broken and whole. In Boston's unyielding heart. The wheel turned inexorably. Seasons bleeding into years. Boston's pulse syncing with our own. A city of reinventions where old wounds scabbed over with new stories. By our third anniversary, the collective had ballooned to 5 locations. Each a testament to grit, murals by local queer artists splashing walls. Telehealth pods for rural betas too scared to travel. Partnerships with Fenway Health that funneled resources to the front lines. Ethan had fully divested from Hale Industries. The empire auctioned to ethical buyers. His days now split between grant writing and volunteer shifts, the XEO elbow deep in community gardens. Dirt under his nails as he planted heirloom tomatoes with at-risk youth. Our marriage matured like a fine bourbon, smooth with age, sharp at the edges. Romance lived in the details, notes tucked into lunch bags, don't forget to eat. Dreamy. Weekend escapes to the White Mountains where we'd hike Acadia trails. Collapsing into Adirondack chairs with craft IPAs. His arms slung casual over my shoulders as we watched loons dive into glassy lakes. Sex was poetry now, versatile, intuitive. His alpha ruts met with my beta steadiness. Or lazy mornings where I'd wake him with mouth and hands, drawing out pleas that made him blush beneath the stubble. Drama, when it resurfaced, was quieter, more internal, a slow burn conflict born of growth. Mateo, now a rambunctious 3-year-old, had Riley uprooting to California for a fresh start. Her job offer at a San Francisco nonprofit too good to pass. We'll visit, she promised at the going-away brunch in the public garden. Tears salting the quiche as Ethan hoisted the kid for one last horsey ride. But the hole lingered, a reminder of makeshift families' fragility. Ethan buried it in work, volunteering extra at the youth center. But I saw the drift, nights he'd stare at the ceiling, murmuring, what if we're not enough? For a kid? For legacy? The question festered, emotional undercurrents swelling like the harbor at high tide. We'd skirted adoption talks before, but now it loomed, a romantic precipice. We are enough, I'd affirm, curling into him on the couch. This is us flickering ignored on the screen. But if you want more, let's do it right, foster first. See if it fits. Therapy helped unpack it, his alpha imprinting on provision, my beta wariness of overreach. Sessions ended in tears, then tenderness, home to candlelit baths, bodies slick and soothing, reaffirming our core. Autumn's palette deep in the introspection, foliage a riot as we fostered our first, a wiry 14-year-old named Kai. Non-binary beta with a hacker's grin and scars from group home battles. Placement started rocky, Kai's walls higher than the Prudential Tower. Snark flying like shrapnel, great. Another savior duo. Pass the therapy pamphlets. Ethan took the hits with humor, challenging them to Mario Kart marathons in the den. I bonded over clinic shifts, teaching vitals checks on crash dummies, watching wariness melt to trust. But conflict peaked mid-placement. Kai's bio-family surfacing, a deadbeat alpha dad with custody claims, court dates dragging like anchors. Ethan advocated fierce, lawyered up. But the strain showed, arguments flaring over dinner. His voice alpha-edged. We fight for them. Sims. Always. I counter. Exhausted from depositions and double shifts, fighting blind burns us out. We need balance. The breaking point came November 2nd. Election night chills seeping through cracks. TV blaring recounts as Kai huddled anxious on the stairs. Ethan and I clashed in the kitchen, him pacing, me leaning on the counter. Words escalating. You're pulling away, I accused. Voice cracking. Like before, the Empire calling. Me the afterthought. He stopped. Face crumpling. Good. I'm terrified of failing them. Failing you. What if I'm just my father's ghost? The admission gutted me. Raw vulnerability stripping him bare. I crossed to him, hands framing his jaw, thumbs tracing the lines worry had etched. You're Ethan. My Ethan. Ghosts don't love like this. Reconciliation was wrenching, beautiful, tears mingling as we sank to the floor, backs to cabinets, his head on my shoulder as sobs shook us. This? Kai peeked down, eyes wide, then joined. A tentative huddle of three. You guys okay? They whispered. And we nodded, pulling them in, a knot of limbs and heartbeats. Humanistic healing in the mess. Court ruled for us that December. Kai staying. The first of 3 fosters over years, each a chapter. Teaching patience. Presence. Romance thrived in the chaos. Stolen glances over homework tables. Quickies in the clinic storage room. His text midday miss your face. Come home soon. But the true dramatic arc crested in spring's thaw. A betrayal not of malice but misunderstanding. It started innocuous, an invite to Ethan's old Pack Solstice Gala. Elders extended olive branches post-scandal. To mend fences. He wanted to go strategic for networking the collective's reach. But memories of slurs and stares resurfacing. It's a lion's den. Ethan. Why poke it? For closure, he pressed. Gentle but insistent. Show them we're unbreakable. I relented. Suiting up in tailored wool. His hands steady in mine as we entered the gilded ballroom at the Fairmont Copley. Chandeliers dripping light like honeyed lies. The night soured slow, whispers behind fans. Omega dates shooting pitying glances. An elder cornering Ethan with veiled barbs. Still playing house with the beta? Pity no heirs. He bristled. Jaw clenching. But I pulled him to the dance floor. Swaying to a string quartet's rendition of Moon River. Reclaiming the moment. Then the knife twist, Riley's brother. Out on bail. Crashing the periphery, slipping a waiter a note. Eyes locking on me across the room. We found it later. Tucked in Ethan's coat pocket, photos of Kai at school. Time-stamped threats, hand over the kid, or the beta pays. Panic surged. Alpha fury blazing as Ethan tackled the man in the coat check. Fists flying until security swarmed. "You son of a," he roared. "Hell back. We lay the at cops." Voice steady through the roar. The fallout was a whirlwind, protective orders. Media frenzy, Hale scandal redux, foster kid in crosshairs, clinic under lockdown. Kai crashing on Lila's couch for safety. Betrayal stung deepest, not the brothers, but Ethan's omission. He'd known of the man's release. Downplayed it to spare worry. "I thought I could handle it," he confessed in our lawyer's office. Head bowed. "Like always. Always gets us shot," I snapped. The old wound reopening. Emotional floodgates bursting. Partners? Ethan, not protector and protected. The fight spilled home. Words weapons until exhaustion claimed us. Curled apart on the bed. Silence a chasm. Dawn brought contrition. Him brewing tea. Eyes red-rimmed. Kneeling by the bed. "I fucked up. Fin. But I'm listening, tell me how to fix." Vulnerability disarmed. We rebuilt, joint therapy with a PAC specialist. Boundaries redrawn, full disclosure. No solo heroics. Romance reignited in amends, a vow renewal at Walden Pond. Just us and Thoreau's ghost. Rings re-exchanged in the shallows. Water lapping promises. Climax resolved in summer swelter. Trial wrapping with the brother incarcerated. Kai legally ours, adoption papers signed under July 4th fireworks. Bursts mirroring the joy exploding in our chests. The party was epic, South End block bash. Lila grilling burgers. Riley video calling from the coast. Kai blasting Chapel Roan from speakers. Ethan pulled me aside mid-dance. Sweat slick and grinning. "You saved us." Every time. The humanistic close came gentle. Years layering like sedimentary rock. Kai thrived, college-bound hacker with a scholarship to MIT. Our home a revolving door of their friends. Laughter echoing off walls we'd painted rainbow. Ethan and I aged into it, grays threading his temples. Laugh lines framing my eyes. Bodies softer but no less hungry, sex a comfortable fire. Knowing every curve. One crisp October eve. Walking the common as leaves swirled. He stopped by the frog pond. Pulling a faded photo from his wallet, us at 24. Harvard quad. Arms slung casual. "From broken to this," he said. "Worth every scar." I kissed him then. Deep and enduring. The city fading to backdrop. Betrayal's echo silenced. Love's drama mellowed to melody. We were the story now. Alpha and beta. In America's beating heart, resilient. Right? Profoundly human.